Hello, guys.
Hi, and welcome to a new meetup of Angular ngVikings. Today we have an exciting program. We're going to have two speakers. My name is Jørnar Atleli, and I work for Front House Consulting.
My name is Mike Bella. I'm working at the web core team at Nordea. That's a bank in Scandinavia.
We want to first thank you all for joining us and remind you that this is a global event. We usually have these meetups in Scandinavia, but this time it's online, so we're all here. We also want to remind you about our code of conduct, which is on this address here. To summarize it very shortly, don't be a jerk, be nice to each other in the comments, and leave lots of them, and we'll answer all of your comments at the end. We also have a Twitter and a Facebook account where you can leave comments. But for today, when we're speaking, we mostly follow the YouTube account.
One thing to interrupt, Jørnar, please, folks, please comment in the chat, in the YouTube, on the Facebook, so we can bring the comments, bring the questions to the speakers, and then we just get the answers and have fun together.
Today, we're going to have two great speakers with us. We have Ankit Sharma, which is going to tell us about creating a full stack web app using .NET and Angular. And I think that's pretty impressive. He's going to do that in 30 minutes. We're also going to have Lemise Chabi with us, and she's going to tell us about her journey into Angular, RxJS, and WebSockets. So stay tuned for two great speakers today. I think we are maybe already ready for Ankit.
Let's bring him.
Let's bring him in. Hello, Ankit.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Ankit, you are a published author of 3 books, and you're situated somewhere in India. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am currently working as a full stack consultant, and I'm currently staying in Samastipur, Bihar, India. And as you mentioned, I have published 3 books in last 3 years, and one of them is on Blazor, one of them is on C#, and the third one is on Angular and Firebase. So, and I'm pretty excited for this ngViking meetup, and I'm going to create a full stack web application using .NET and Angular, and as you mentioned, in 30 minutes. So that will be pretty fast.
So, no further ado, the screen is all yours.
Okay, great.
Get going.
Yeah, thank you. So let me share my screen and then we will start. So hello everyone, welcome to ngViking Meetup. My name is Ankit, and today we are going to talk about how to create a full stack web application using .NET 5 and Angular. So before starting, just I want to give a bit of introduction about myself. I am a full stack consultant. I am an author and a speaker. I'm also a Google developer expert for Angular and Microsoft MVP. You can read my blog at ankitsharmablogs.com, where I continuously write about multiple Microsoft technologies such as .NET and front-end technologies such as Angular and Blazor. You can also follow me on Twitter at ankitsharma_007. So today we are going to create a full stack application where we will be using SQL Server as our backend, and then we will be using .NET 5 for our APIs, and Angular, the latest version is 11, Angular 11 for our front end. So the prerequisites for this application is to install Visual Studio 2019, and while installing Visual Studio 2019, we have to select the ASP.NET and web development workload. So that is very important, so that we can get the option to create an ASP.NET core application. We have to install .NET 5 SDK or the latter version, and then we have to install SQL Server. So the dependency on SQL Server is very less. So any version, maybe 2014 or 2017, any one of them will work. Apart from this, we are going to install two packages in our application. One of the package will be for the database provider, which is the SQL Server. So we are going to install using the npm package called Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. And since we are using entity framework tools to create to scaffold the model from the database, we are going to install Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.tools also. So before proceeding, I just want to mention that we will be using DB first approach for our application. So first we will be creating the database tables, and then we will be using entity framework core to scaffold our models for our application. So let's jump into the code and we'll see how things work. So first of all, here is my SQL Server. Here we are going to create two tables. One of them is the cities table and another one of them is the employees table. So as you can already see that in the cities table, we have 5 rows already entered. So here we are going to show the name of 5 cities, and we are going to create an employee record management system, which means where we can add the data for an employee, and we can add, remove, and delete the data for an employee. While playing with the employee data, we will be handling the city name from this cities table. So we are going to populate the city name from this table only, and we will going to store the employee data in the second table. So right now the second table is empty, as you can see, and here you can see the third column is a city column. This will refer to the value in this cities table. Now let me open a new Visual Studio instance. I'm going to tell you how to create this application first, and then we'll proceed. So click on create a new project, and in the template you have to search for ASP.
Sorry for interruption. If you can check it out, the screen sharing, so everybody will be able to see the screen, how you're sharing the screen.
Okay, so the screen is not, I'm not able to share. Okay, let me check. I thought the screen is getting shared. I'm sorry for that. So can you see the screen now?
Now it's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So shall I start once again? Maybe I'm really sorry for that. So I think there might be some miscommunication from my end. So we are going to discuss about full stack web application using .NET and Angular, as we mentioned. And here is a bit of introduction about myself. Here are the prerequisites for this application. We'll be installing Visual Studio 2019, and while installing Visual Studio 2019, we have to make sure that we will install we'll select the ASP.NET and web development workload, and also we need to install .NET 5 SDK and SQL Server. And along with that, we have to install the npm package so that we can use the SQL Server and entity framework tools in our application. So let's jump with the code. So here is the Visual Studio. I have opened the Visual Studio in my machine, and you have to search for ASP.NET Core Web Application template. Click on this, click on next, give some name. So here I'm going to give the name as Angular app. Click on create. Here in this page, here you have to select .NET Core from this framework selection drop down, and from the version selection drop down, here you have to select ASP.NET Core 5.0. In this drop down, you can see there are other versions mentioned also. So it will show all the versions which are installed in your machine. So we are going to select the ASP.NET 5.0. And then here we have to select ASP.NET Core with Angular template. So this is very important. And then you have to click on create. So I have already created this application. I'm not going to create it again because it will take some time, because it will install all the node modules and other dependencies. So I have already created the application here. And here you can see there is a client app folder. So this client app folder will contain the UI part of your application, which is the Angular part. And then we have the controllers here, which will contain our services. And then we have, and I have also created a data access folder for the data access layer. And since I will be using dependency, repository pattern, so I have created the interfaces also. So first step is to scaffold our models. Here you can see there is no models folder. So as I mentioned that I will be creating models using DB first approach. So database is already created. Now I am going to create the models. So there is a command for that. So I have already written this command. Go to tools, NuGet package manager, open the package manager console, and then run this command. So here you can see the command. Here we have provided our connection string, and then here I have mentioned the output directory, the name as models, and I have provided the table's name as employees and cities. So now you can see here we have the models folders created, and in that folder we have the city and employee class created. Along with that, we also have a DB context class. So let's open this DB context and see the code there. In the DB context class, we can see that all our table details are mentioned over there, and also you can see there is a warning shown over there. It is saying that you have to remove your connection string out of this file so that you can save the sensitive information. So for now, we are going to delete this, and we will move this connection string to the app setting.json file. So we'll go to app setting.json file, and here we will be adding the connection string. So this is my connection string which I have added. And now once our connection string is added in app setting.json file, now we have to add this connection string in the configuration section of our startup.cs file. So which I will be going to do in a latter part of this talk. For now, let's proceed to create a data access layer. Sorry, before that we have to create the interfaces for us. What are the methods we are going to use? So here is the code for the interface. And let me import the models here. So here we are going to create, since we are going to perform CRUD operations on our employee data, so we have get all employees method, then we have add employee, update employee, get employee data using the ID, because we are fetching, we will also fetching the employee data based on the ID. Then we have the delete employee based on the ID, and then we have a get cities method, which will fetch the list of all the cities from the table city. Okay, now we are going to create the employee data. We are going to employee data access layer. Here we have inherited our interface, and we'll be creating, we'll be implementing all the methods. So first we'll create a constructor, and we'll inject the dependency for the DB context. And now we are going to add all the methods. So here is the get all employee method. This get all employee method will fetch the data from the employees table, and it will return a list from that data, and it will order by the employee ID, so that it will get a data in a particular order. Then we have add method. So add method is going to add a new employee record in the employees table. So this method will accept a parameter of type employee, and then it will add to our employees table. Similarly, we have update. So update is also similar to the add, but it will be modifying the entity state of a particular data. So that's why we are using the entity state.modified flag. Then fetch by ID. This method is going to fetch the employee data based on the employee ID passed to it. So it will find the data in the table, and it will return that employee. Then we have the delete method. So as delete method is self-explanatory, we are going to delete the employee based on the employee ID. And finally, we have the get city method. So get city method will fetch the list of all the cities from the cities table. So this is all the data access layer. Now we will move to our controller. In the controller, we are going to create our API endpoints, and these API endpoints are going to call our data access layer. And that is, this API endpoint will act as a interface between the UI and the data access layer. So here, first we'll be creating the control constructor. Here we have injected the dependency of our interface. Then we'll add all our API endpoints. So let me add. Okay. So let's see. So we have a get endpoint to fetch all the data from the table. So it will call the get all employees method of the data access layer, and it will return all the data from the employee table. Then we have a post endpoint, which will use to add a new employee record in our database. Similarly, we have a get based on ID. So we'll be passing ID for our API endpoint, and then we'll call get employee data by ID method, and we'll fetch the employee data based on the ID. Similarly, we have put for updating the employee data, delete for deleting the employee data, and finally a get city list endpoint to fetch the list of cities from our database. So this is how we are going to structure our application. But just to make sure that our endpoints are our endpoints are available to be consumed by the outer world, we have to configure our services in our startup.cs file. So we are going to add the configuration over here. So we are going to add that the services over here, and we are going to add the transient dependency. So while creating service in a .NET Core application, we have multiple kind of service configuration. One of them is singleton, then we have transient, and then so in case of singleton, there will be only one instance of service for all the calls. In case of transient, there will be separate instance for separate client and server calls. Therefore, we are using add transient over here. And if you remember, initially I mentioned that we have moved out our connection string from the db context class to the app setting.json. So how we are going to utilize that connection string? So in line number 27, we are doing that. We are adding the db context class, and then in the options we are mentioning that we are using the SQL Server, since we are using SQL Server as our database, and then we are providing the configuration information over here. So here you can see it is showing connection string dot default connection, and if you go to app setting.json, here you can see in the JSON structure we have connection string, and then inside that we have default connection name, which provides our connection string. So that is how the startup.cs file will refer to our connection string from our app setting.json. So this part finishes our backend code, means our API code. Now we will move to our front end, which is the Angular application. So let me close all of this so that there will be less clutter. Close, 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 all close. So we'll go to client app. So as I mentioned that our Angular application resides in the client app. We'll go to client app, src app. Here we have a services folder. So inside the services, we have created a employee service. So this service is going to call our API endpoints and fetch data from the API. So let me add a constructor for this. Here you can see that I have added a base URL, which is API/employee. So if you look at the controller, the root for controller is API/controller name, and the name of the controller is employee. Therefore, the root for this particular controller will be API/employee. This is what we have defined over here, the base URL, API/employee. Now we are going to add the getCity method. This getCity method will call the getCityList endpoint and will fetch the list of cities from our API. Similarly, we'll add a getEmployee method. This getEmployee method will will make a get call to our API and will fetch the list of employees from the backend. And similarly, we have other methods over here. So we have getEmployee by ID, which will accept the employee ID as a parameter, and then it will call the get endpoint from the backend and pass the ID as a parameter. Similarly, we have save employee. In case of save employee, we are also passing the employee information which we want to save to our backend. So therefore, we are passing this as a payload. And in same case with the update also, the only difference between save and update is that in case of save, we are making a post call. However, in case of update, we are making a put call. But in both the cases, we are passing the payload of the employee data. And the delete employee, we are making a delete call to delete the employee based on the ID. So this is all about our services. Now next step is that we have two components defined over here. One is called fetch employee component, and another one is the add employee component. So first we'll go to fetch employee component. So fetch employee component will refer to the read operation of our application. It will fetch the list of all the employees and it will display on the UI. So let us create this first. So first we are going to our TS file, and here we have a get employee method. So here you can see that I have already injected the dependency of the service in our constructor, and now we are going to call the methods from the service to fetch the employee list. So here we are going to call employee service.getEmployee method. We'll subscribe to it, and then we have a employees variable defined and we'll assign the data. Similarly, we also have a delete method. And in the delete method, first we are going to open a confirmation box from the and asking for the confirmation from the user. We'll ask the user if he wants to delete the employee, and we'll show the employee ID. If the user press yes, then only we'll call the delete employee method from our service and then delete the employee data. Else we'll not delete. So that is how the delete part will work. Now let's move on to the template of this particular component. So here you can see in the template, first we have some message to show on the screen, and here we have a table. Here we are showing a table. Inside this table, we are using a for loop to iterate over the list of the employees. So this particular employees variable we have defined over here, which is an array of type employee, and this employee is a model which we have defined here. So it contains employee ID, name, city, department, and gender. So we are going to populate this employees in our on ng on init, so that it will be available as the page loads. And then in the template, we are using an for loop ng for directive to iterate over this employees array, and then we are going to show them in our table. Corresponding to every employee data, we are also providing the functionality for edit and delete. Therefore, we have provided an edit button and a delete button over there. If you click on delete button, we are calling the delete method, which we have already defined. However, when you click on edit, we are navigating to employee/edit/employee ID route. So how this route is going to be defined? This route is going to navigate to the add employee component. So how the add employee component is going to work? Let's see that. In the add employee component, we have defined a form. For this particular application, we are using reactive form. So the reason we are using reactive form is because reactive form gives you more control over the form, and it is very easy to use, and it gives more power to you as a developer. So that's why I prefer reactive form over template driven form. So here we have created a reactive form, and in the constructor we have initialized this form. Also, we are using same form and same component for both add and edit functionality. So to distinguish between add and edit functionality, we are using the route. So what will happen if the route contains a employee ID, that is an integer variable? This means that that route is being called for an edit functionality. However, if the route is called without an edit functionality, that is without an ID, then this means it is for add call. So let me show you the route configuration first. Where is this app module? Here is the app module. So in the app module, here you can see that employee/edit/ID. So here we are passing ID as a parameter for our route, and it will calling the add employee component. Wherever register employee is also calling the add employee component here. Now in the add employee component section, inside the constructor, here we have put if statement. Here we are checking in the router snapshot, we are setting the employee ID. If router snapshot has the ID, then we set the employee ID. And if the employee ID is set, this means this is an edit operation. If employee ID is not set, this means this is not an edit. This is an add operation. So inside the ng on init section, we are first calling this fetch city list method. So what it will do, the fetch city list method will call the get city list from our service, and it will fetch the list of cities from our database, from our service call. And we are going to populate this list of city in a drop down so that user can select from them. Also, we will check if employee ID is set. This means this is an edit call. So we'll set the title to edit, and then we'll fetch the employee by ID, and we will pre-populate the form with the employee data. This will make sure that our edit operation will work seamlessly and the user can edit the already existing data. And we have the we'll be going to add the save method here. So this is the save method, and this save method will be called when we submit the form, and we'll see if the title is create, then we'll call the add employee method. If the title is edit, we'll call the update employee method. So let me add the add employee method as well as the update method. So here you can see that in case of add employee, we are calling the save employee method of the service, and we are passing the form value. So this form value will contain the data of the employee. So this will call the save employee if the case is of for the creating a new employee. However, if we want to update an existing employee, in this case we are calling the update employee method and again passing the form data to this. So that is how we'll structure our add employee component. Let's go to the template for this, and we'll see in the template. You can see that we have added a form, and on submit on ng submit, that is on submitting the form, we are calling the save method. And inside this form we have the name field, and all the fields are a required field, so we are also using the validations. So if you go to the component in the form declaration in the component, here you can see while declaring the form itself, we have mentioned that the name, gender, department and city, these 4 fields are required field, so we are using validators dot required for them. Now if you look at the city drop down over here, you can see that we are using a ng for directive to iterate over the city list array, and then we are binding the value to our drop down list. So this will make sure that whatever the city data available in our database will fetched once this component is loaded, and then it get binded to this particular drop down list, and it is available for the user to get to select it from. And then we have a save and cancel button. The save button is of type submit, so it will submit the form, and on form submit, this save method will be called. However, cancel button is a normal button, and it will directly call the cancel method, and in case of cancel method we'll navigate back to our fetch employee page. So let's run this application and we'll see it in action, so we can have a better understanding then. So I have started it, and let's see. I hope it works. Still loading. I hope there is no error. Okay, so it is loaded. Yeah, so this is the home page, and in the nav bar we have the home and fetch employee link. If you click on fetch employee, you will get to the fetch employee link. Here you can see that table is shown there, which we have already discussed. It will show the employee data. Right now there is no employee data, therefore this table is empty. So we have a add new employee button, so click on this add new employee. Now you can see the route is registered employee, which means we can create a new employee, and the title is create employee. So we'll add a name. Let me add my name, Ankit. Gender male, department dev, and city. So here you can see this city drop down is fetched from our database, and it will contain all those 5 cities which we have already added in our database. So let me add some city over there and click on save button. Once you click on save, the data will be added to your database and you will be navigated back to the fetch employee page. At this point, if you go to your database and run this select star from employee command again, you can see the data which we have added over in our application. Now we have edit and delete functionality also. So let me click on edit. So if I click on edit, now look at the route. The route is employee/edit/1. So this 1 is my ID. At this point of time, the add employee component will act as a treat this form for edit. So now the title is also set to edit, and here all the data is pre-populated over here. Now if I change something, let's say from Mumbai to Hyderabad and from dev to dev lead, and then I click on save, you can see the data is updated over there, dev lead and city is Hyderabad. And similarly, this data is updated in our database also. The city is Hyderabad and department is dev lead. Similarly, we have the delete. So if I click on delete, it will ask for a confirmation. Do you want to delete the employee with ID 1? So the employee ID is 1. If I click on cancel, nothing will happen. If I click on OK, the data will be deleted and I can see the row is empty, and this will be deleted from database also. So if I run this again, you can see the table is empty. So that is how our full stack application will work with .NET and Angular. So this finishes our talk. But before I close, I want to share the resources with you. So this is the resource which which you can refer. So you can go to the GitHub and you can use this. You can see the code which we have used over here. So there you can see the complete. You can access the complete code. You can play around and you can enhance your understanding. Also, you can refer to my personal blog ankitsharmablogs.com to read more about Angular, .NET, and Blazor and other technical stuffs. And you can also follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and then we can discuss about any technical content. So that is all from my end. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have enjoyed my show. You have enjoyed my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ankit.
I think
that was you did manage within 30 minutes, and that was mighty impressive race of talk. Mikhail?
Yeah. So can I share this link in the chat so that you can share with
yes. Please do that. Links are in the chat, and Ankit will hang around, so you will be able to ask your questions to him afterwards. But first, Mike, your mic.
While Ankit is sharing the link, sorry, I've been muted. So I will share them our Twitter.
Yeah, it will be better.
Twitter link and the Facebook one, so you'll be able to get in and to comment and actually ask the question. So please do ask. We will have a special session after the second speaker, where both of them will take the questions and detailedly answer them. So please go ahead and do the commenting. And we actually also chat there together.
Yeah, I think we have a question and answer session after the second talk, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, and now it's time to move on. So please welcome a senior software engineer, and is going to tell you about RxJS and WebSockets. So basically, how the WebSockets object is able to use to achieve the real-time updates within the web. And of course, this is mapped on the Angular, our lovely Angular reality. So just a couple of words about Lamis. Lamis is a DD, Google Developer Expert for the Angular, and she has a strong passion for their modern web. And in addition to that, she's a founder of Angular Tunisia and a member of WW Code community, and speaker, content creator, and a trainer. And we before our stage actually had a quick chat, and I learned that Lamis speaks 4 languages. So what are they? Can you please tell us?
I speak Arabic, French, English, and Spanish. A little bit of Spanish, to be honest. Yeah.
That's impressive. That's impressive. And actually, this a bit brought us to the mind to encourage you folks, please post in the comments where you're coming from and the languages you speak. And I think it's wonderful if you'll be able just to share, and this is another thing that will connect us. But I won't take more time. So Lemis, please go ahead. Stage is yours.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Yeah. I think it's okay now. Yeah. So hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well and you're in good health. So a little bit about myself. I'm GD for Angular. I'm a senior software engineer based in Tunisia. I'm leading an Angular project. And aside, the founder of Angular Tunisia, I'm a speaker, mentor, trainer, and I blog about some about my experience in some fields. I mean, real-time, WebAssembly, Angular, the web, JavaScript, etc. And yeah, I'm really involved also in women empowerment communities. I'm already a member of Women Who Code and Women Who Code Front End. And I participated so many times in NG Girls. So yeah, I'm really involved in. So just let's jump into it. My talk today falls into the category of real-time topics, and I've kept a keen eye on the real-time area for quite some time now, and I really believe that it's an interesting topic, and people keep asking about real-time. Even clients keep asking about implementing this feature in the application. So it's evolving so fast. And I said to myself, why not putting this in place in my Angular application, as I'm into Angular. So I said, why not putting this in place in my Angular application? So in short, what I want to do is achieving real-time updates in my Angular application, given a WebSocket server delivering or pushing the most recent version of the data in real time, of course. Yeah, and I started to search and I found many packages over there. There are many great open source packages. Some implement the WebSocket protocol and leave the rest for the developer. Others are just built on the top of the protocol with many amazing additional features, but I really don't recommend to include a third-party dependency in your web application every time you have a new feature to add, okay? Because it's simply a cost, okay? So you have to consider the performance of this third-party library, the community behind, the documentation, the reliability. How will this affect your bundle size? Okay, because it will affect your bundle size for sure, but how much? And yeah, so you should study it carefully before you integrate any third-party library. So I would better pick something from the Angular ecosystem. And I was surprisingly glad to know that RxJS ships with a ready-to-use subject, which is the RxJS WebSocket subject that supports WebSocket in your client-side layer, okay? And I was happy because RxJS is a first-class citizen in Angular, so I don't have to include any third-party dependency, and I have the support out of the box, okay? So I give it a try, and that's why I'm here today. But before we start, let me give you a little bit of background to make everybody here able to follow. So WebSocket is a double communication protocol which has landed with HTML5 and is useful when you want to establish a double communication between your client and your server, okay? And it's a stateful communication, as I said, which establishes a full duplex bidirectional communication between your client and your server, so both can communicate with each other at any time, okay? And this will happen after a successful handshake done through HTTP. And this handshake is kind of telling the server that I want to speak a different language. Do you understand? Do you agree? And if the server agrees, then a protocol upgrade will occur in the client layer, which is this 101 switching protocols. And yeah, so this is in short the WebSocket technology, and WebSockets has been there a long time. Yeah, they are very supported in many browsers, okay? And the RxJS WebSocket subject is a wrapper around W3C compatible WebSocket object, okay? So it allows to both send and receive messages through WebSocket connection, okay? And I see subjects in RxJS as observer and observer at the same time. So you can send data to your observers and emit at the same time. Emit to listen to the source, okay, that is sending the data. And in order to use it, so in order to use this RxJS WebSocket subject, all that you have to do is calling the WebSocket factory function available in the RxJS WebSocket subject, and just pass the URL of your WebSocket endpoint. You can use WebSocket, WS, or WSS for secure connections, the same as HTTP and HTTPS. And there are two ways to create this WebSocket subject. The first way is just calling the WebSocket factory function and passing as a parameter the string. The second way is passing a whole object, okay, in which you can find the URL among other parameters. And I will explain later in this slide the capability of this special kind of object, but for now, just keep in mind that there are two ways to create the WebSocket subject, okay? So given that, okay, we created the WebSocket subject, and this factory function will return this WebSocket subject. Starting from that point, we can subscribe to the subject in order to establish connection with your server, okay? There is no connection with the WebSocket server before subscription. And once the connection is established, then you can start receiving data from your server. The WebSocket subject will emit those data for you, and you can send data to your server the other way around using next method, okay, which is available in any subject in RxJS. And once you're done, you just hit complete or unsubscribe to close the connection. And into code, it looks like this, okay? I have here a hello world example, a very simple one to start. So in the first line, I called the WebSocket factory function. I gave the URL of my WebSocket endpoint. It returns to me the WebSocket subject. So I can subscribe to in order to start receiving data. And here I am just logging the message received just here to check if it works, the communication is established or not. So you have to subscribe in order to listen to messages from the server, and to push messages to the server, you just hit next, okay? So those are the two use cases, the first basic use cases, let's say. Now, as I said, that the subscription, there's no connection before subscription, okay, before you subscribe. Then, does many subscribers mean different sockets connection? If you have many subscribers, and every subscriber will try at some point to subscribe to this source of data, then this opens every time a socket connection? And the answer is hopefully no, okay? The socket connection is opened one time, and all the subscribers will share, will listen on the same socket connection, okay? It's hot, okay? So think of it as a singleton, okay? And this is very important in order to gain in performance and to save resources, okay? Because it's opening a WebSockets connection is not something that is very cheap, okay, in terms of resources. It's something expensive. So, many subscribers will listen through the same socket connection, and into code, it will look like this. I have here two instances of the WebSocket subject, but pointing out the same URL, Okay, I've done this in purpose and I'll explain it. So here I have the first subject $, which is the first reference to the first object, let's say, the second subject, which is the second object. And here the first subscriber will open the WebSocket connection, okay, because he's the first one, so he will open the WebSocket connection. The second subscriber now will use the already opened WebSocket connection. And here, be careful, we are here subscribing to the same object, to the same reference. However, if we will subscribe now to the second subject, which is a second instance, a completely different object, even if it's pointing out the same URL, then another connection is open. So bear in mind that if you have one WebSocket server, don't instantiate it every time because it will harm your performance. Just do this one time and use this WebSocket connection and share it with all the subscribers. Yeah, so this was about the subscription and how the RxJS WebSocket subject handle it. Now, the socket connection closes when a consumer unsubscribes. And yeah, as I said, that they share now the same connection. Okay, they are sharing, all the subscribers are sharing the same connection. Now, if one subscriber tries to unsubscribe, does this affect the others? And the answer hopefully is no. It will close the connection unless no more subscribers are still listening. And this is what it looks like into code. I mean, here I have my subject $, which is the RxJS WebSocket subject. The first subscriber subscribes and it opens the WebSocket connection. The second one, as we said, will use the already opened WebSocket connection. Now, the first subscriber, after some point, tries to unsubscribe to release this connection. And here the connection will stay open. Okay, why? Because the subscription to the second subscriber is still listening. Now, if the last subscriber decides to unsubscribe, then the connection will be closed. And this was good also. Now, next question, sorry, what about error handling? How do we handle errors? I mean, outgoing errors and coming errors from the server. Now, in order to send an error to the server, then you just call the error method available in the RxJS WebSocket subject, and you can pass to it a whole object. I mean, you can put the code, the reason, to detail the exception. Yeah, this is how you handle the errors, the outgoing errors, okay, outgoing from the client side, of course. Now, if you want to handle or to intercept, okay, coming errors from the server, then you can register an error callback as follows. So here you have 3 callbacks. The first one, in order to intercept coming messages from the server, the second callback to intercept the errors, and the third callback is to intercept the completion, okay? For example, if you want, when the connection is complete, you want to perform whatever treatment you want, so you can register this callback in order to, yeah, put your custom behavior. Yeah, so this is how you handle errors, but keep in mind that the error will close the connection, okay? So the error, okay, it will inform the server that there's something wrong happening, but it will close the WebSocket connection at the same time. So if we come back to the last life cycle, if you want, we should add this arrow, which is the error arrow, in order to make this life cycle complete. So this here you have the complete and exhaustive list of events. Okay, the arrow will notify the server and close the connection. And here we go. Now, Let's move to the next question. And are outgoing messages lost when the connection is down? Now, if for whatever reason the connection is down, and at the same time the client is informing or sending messages to the server, what will happen? The messages will be buffered for you. Okay, the RxJS WebSockets subject has this capability, this buffering capability. Okay, it will buffer those messages for you, so you can receive it on your next reconnection. Now let's move to the RxJS WebSocket. Okay, config. RxJS WebSocket subject config, which is the special object I told you about when I was explaining earlier how you instantiate the WebSocket subject. So this is a special object, okay, and it is available to make users able to customize the behavior. So if you want, for example, to provide a custom behavior in specific moment of the socket lifecycle, you should check this object out because it will help you doing and achieving this customization. Okay, for example, if you want to customize or to intercept, let's say, to be more accurate, the closure of the connection, in order to put a specific treatment, okay? And yeah, so you should put this object, I mean, you should instantiate this object and provide this custom behavior in the closing observable function, okay? If you want, for example, to customize on the opening, to customize the behavior and the opening of the connection, then there is a specific property here, which is open observer, that you can override in order to put your process. Even for serialization, deserialization, the binary type, the protocol, and the exhaustive list is available in the official documentation. I put the link below on my slides. I'll be sharing later. You can check it out in order to find out the exhaustive and complete list. But here we have an example. Okay, so this example, just I am here just calling the WebSocket factory function using this object, and the properties here I'm using are URL, in which I put the URL of my WebSocket endpoint. And here I have two functions, the open observer and the close observer, that I am overriding, okay, in order to put a specific behavior. For my case here, I'm just putting connection established or socket close, but just to show you, but then I will show you a real-time, a real-world example. Yeah, so, and here you can also customize the deserialization and serialization of messages. Okay, for deserialization by default is json.parse, but sometimes your server don't send those types of data, so you can provide the deserialization method that yeah, you need. And the serialization here by default is stringify, but again, maybe it's not your case, maybe you're not handling those kind of data, the string data, so you just have to customize this method. Okay, and what happens behind the scene, I mean, here I will explain this briefly. If you subscribe, so the RxJS to the RxJS WebSocket subject, the RxJS WebSocket subject will check if you're not connecting, then it will connect the socket for you. If the connection is okay, he will check if the onOpen method is customized or not. If there's something in your WebSocket subject config that says, oh, use this instead of your default, then he will call it for you. Same thing for the errors. If the connection is not okay, then on error will be called, and the on error will call the on close, which will close the connections. And again here, it will check if there is a custom implementation or not. Ongoing messages, here, same thing, okay? There is a unit for deserialization. By default, we use the JSON.parse. If not, if there is a custom implementation provided, then it will call your custom deserialization method, and respectively the same thing for serialization. And this is the whole process, okay? This is what happens under the hood. For the complete, it closes the socket, and the connection is released. And now, what are the types of messages supported? Okay, all the types of messages are supported. I mean, strings, objects, JSON, etc. You can even deal with binaries, but if you want to deal with binaries, you just have to, here in the customization object, you have to put the binary type. Here I put, for example, I have here a small example for you, which is the array buffer. Okay, I am just using the array buffer in this use case. So I changed the binary type, and I changed, obviously, the serialization and deserialization. Okay, stringify and JSON.parse will not work for me for sure. And I'm using here the library unit8 array in order to parse and to handle this binary. Now, how to handle the authentication. Here, I tried to put all the questions that you should ask, and people keep asking me also in the same presentation in order to to open your mind for a different view and to explain it, carefully. The authentication. People keep asking in the WebSocket about the authentication. Well, it's not like HTTP. It's not really, you don't have the support out of the box, but you can put a mechanism for this. For example, I have here a short example dealing with a authentication. Here dealing with authentication, I am handling the authentication using a token, okay? And I every time I send something to the server, I include this in my payload. Now, it's the responsibility of the server to validate this token, okay, and to send the messages, the adequate messages for the adequate users. Okay, and this is a mechanism. Okay, this is this is a solution for authentication with WebSockets. Now, how to handle reconnection? Now, the reconnection. Unfortunately, here it's not handled by default in the RxJS WebSocket subject. Neither do the WebSocket protocol in itself. Okay, so if you look into the WebSocket specification in the W3C official documentation, then you can see this. Okay, the reconnection is not supported, but you can do it, or you can implement it easily with RxJS, and I will show you. Okay, if you don't implement the reconnection mechanism yourself, then at some point, if the connection is stopped, or if there is an error or something, then the WebSocket will close the RxJS WebSocket subject will close the connection, and it will no longer emit values for you. Okay, even if the connection is established again. So you have to implement it yourself, and I will show you how you can do this. Now, last question, what architecture to adopt? And I highly recommend here to externalize all the logic related to the WebSocket subject in a separate service, Angular service, that you will inject in your components later, in your real-time components, let's say. So this way, you have things, you have, you respect the separation of concerns pattern, and you can maintain it more easily, okay? So enough chit chat, let's see some code. So I will show you now how this works. I will start by showing you my application here. It's a Hello World application. So I have here, this is my cache dashboard. Okay, it's not real, but all is fake. Now I have here my table, which is an Angular table. I'm using PrimeNG as a library. I'm using the version 10. And yeah, it's updating data automatically through WebSocket connection. Okay, so I will show you briefly here the code. Okay, so here, this is the service I told you about, in which I put all the logic related to the WebSocket. So I will zoom in a little bit. Maybe it's clearer. Yeah, so here I have the connect method, I have the reconnect method, close, send message, and get new WebSocket. Okay, so we will start by the connect method. The connect method will check if the socket is not closed. Okay, and there is no instantiated socket dollar. It will create a new WebSocket for you. And this method is calling the WebSocket factory function. I have here my endpoint, and a little bit here about the WebSocket endpoint. I mean, here I usually recommend to externalize all this in the environment files. Okay, so because those information depends usually from the environment. Yeah, so and then here I am overriding the open observer and the close observer functions. Okay, and I am overriding the close observer to handle the reconnection. Okay, so this is the trick. Okay, so to handle reconnection, you have to override the close observer and to put here the reconnection mechanism. So here I'm saying that, okay, when you close the observer, check the connection again. And I put here a parameter, which is a reconnect true. And if this parameter is put true, then I have here a special kind of operator that I implemented myself. Nothing fancy here, just 2 lines of code. I am just retrying the connection. So this is the idea. You just intercept the closure of the connection and you try to reconnect. And I'm trying to reconnect every delay, every reconnection interval. I retry this connection in order to, handle it. And I'm using the retry when operator and delay when and the timer. I'm combining those operators in order to handle the reconnection. And that's all for dealing with reconnection. And here, I am just here exposing the messages dollar, okay, which is, it's public, but the messages subject is private. And in this observable, I am just combining all the messages coming as observables. Okay, I am dealing with the unsubscription, etc. with switch all, and I'm exposing this messages dollar to the external world. And in this observable, you can find every time the most recent version of the data. So this is for the servers. Okay, nothing fancy. And in the live table component here, which is the component I showed you, the grid one, I just call the messages dollar here, and I'm processing the observable in order to do some treatment in my own, but I am subscribing to it using the asynchronous pipe of Angular. Yeah, and that's it. Okay, I'm just here dealing with change detection. I'm putting it on push to enhance my performance. Sorry. And that's it. I have the output I showed you here. Okay. Now I want to show you an advanced concept here that may be useful for you in your work, okay, and in big projects especially, which is multiplexing. Okay, so in the real time, in the real world, every time I say real time, in the real world, you may have many real-time components related to different servers. Even the servers may be deployed on different machines, and yeah. they are completely separated. It may have sense to put a separate service, I mean, a separate WebSocket connection for every component. Okay, don't do this. Okay, this is not a good pattern because it will harm your performance. As I said, WebSocket connection is something expensive, okay, in terms of resources. So a common pattern is to provide a gateway, okay, a gateway for you, and this gateway will route the adequate call or request to the adequate component. And in your client-side layer, you have just one service, which is pointing out the URL of your gateway, and you're done. I mean, don't do many services in the client layer, but instead just one service, which will point out the gateway, and this service, I mean the gateway service, will route the adequate request to the adequate component. Okay, so this to solve the problem of resources and performance. Now, still, even if you separate concerns and you have only one gateway, it's highly, it's very useful, okay, to manipulate streams coming from the server as if they were coming from different sources, okay, to know in your client side how to deal with those streams. And RxJS WebSocket subjects solve this through multiplexing. Okay, so when you have your RxJS WebSocket subject, you can use multiplex method, okay, which will return an observable and take 3 callbacks. Okay, the first one and the second one are respectively for subscription and unsubscription. They are some object that you can send when you subscribe and you unsubscribe to the WebSocket server. Okay, so this way the server will receive this message at the subscription time and will say, okay, I will start listening to this to the specific components. For example, here I am putting alerts. Okay, I have here the components alerts, and I have, for example, charts, and every component has a different source of data. So in my at the subscription time, I will inform the server that, okay, start to listen to messages from alerts. So he will try to listen to alerts. For the unsubscription, stop listening to those to messages coming from this server, and he will do the same. And the third callback is handled and processed in the client side. I mean, if you have incoming messages, you may have incoming messages from charts component or server and from alerts server. So every time you have, because it's real time, so you have coming messages from different components. But in your Angular component, the client side, you want to just receive the messages related to the specific component. So this is how you deal with it. I mean, you can put here message.type and just provide a condition. Okay, here I am putting messages.type equals alerts, just to say that please just here emit to me messages coming from alerts. And this way I will just intercept or get messages coming from alerts. For charts, I will do the same thing, but I will replace this by charts. Okay, and you're done. Okay, this is the multiplex method, and yeah, you will have as many multiplex calls as your components. Okay, if you have 3 components, then you will have 3 multiplex methods and 3 different observable to deal with streams differently. Yeah, and that's it. And you can here work around with this method. You can work around also event typing in WebSockets. That's it. So in order to sum up, those are the capabilities of the RxJS WebSocket: subject, multiplexing support, binary support, event typing, buffering, and auto reconnection. I put this as capability because, as you saw, it's just 2 lines of code and you can implement it. And I wanted to break it down here into pieces because, okay, wherever the technology you are going to use to deal with WebSockets, keep in mind those points, okay? Keep in mind those features. You should ask about those features and you should consider those features because they are a must in the real-time world. Okay, so just bear in mind those features. And for some performance tips, okay, if you're dealing with big projects also, consider using the change detection strategy to unpush. If you are using loops, track by with Angular, consider using state management also. I have a version with ngRx in my GitHub account, which deals with state management. Consider also using lazy loading. And there is also a very interesting library that I recommend, Rx Angular from Michael Latke, okay? It enhances the performance of many Angular applications. And it really enhanced the performance of my application, and I will write a blog post about it soon, how to use it. So it's very helpful. It comes handy in my situation. Just consider checking it out. Those are some resources for you, and thank you. That's it. Thank you very much for having me. Hope this was interesting. And stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamis. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Please remember to put the links in the chat. Folks will be able to access, to see, and to try it out. That you just
okay.
want to present.
Yeah,
so
I will put it immediately.
Now it's time. Thank you. So now it's time to invite our Jornar and Ankit back to the stage, and then we'll have a QA session. So,
hello, and thank you very much,
Lamis,
for that session. I really enjoyed that, and welcome back also to Ankit.
Yeah, hi.
We'll have a short QA session with you all now, and I think we'll just start off with Ankit because we had a few questions on our YouTube stream that we would like to ask. And the first question comes from Prem Born Explorer, and he's asking, what are the differences between project developing applications separately in 2 projects and doing like this in the same project?
Yeah, so in the example which I took today, I used the already existing template which is provided in the .NET in the Visual Studio. So if you use 2 separate application, then the coding part will be the same. It won't be any problem. There won't be any change in the coding style. The only benefit you will get with separate using separate application is that it will be easy to maintain. You have a separate team working on the UI project, and you have a separate team working on the backend project. So it will be easy to maintain. And you might have 2 different GitHub to do different repository to host 2 different application. So from coding perspective, there won't be any changes. The same code work in both the cases. But just from the maintainability perspective, and if the code base increases huge in size, then it is always advisable to use 2 separate code bases for front end and back end.
Thank you. And this the same user has a second question for you, and he's asking, in the approach you have taken, is there the .NET Core API can be called from other apps, and will the .NET Core API run on any port?
Yes, it can. The .NET Core API can be called from any application, because how it is working that internally when you create this particular template, internally it already configures the path to call the .NET API from the Angular application. But if you run this application, you can hit this endpoint from anywhere. You can use Postman also to verify this, or you can use any other separate application to call this API endpoint. And coming to the second question regarding the port, you can configure the port in the application setting inside the Visual Studio itself, and you can run this application on any port which you want to run.
Thank you. That clarifies.
Thanks.
Lemise, I have a question for you. I have actually a couple. These are questions from me, actually. I really enjoy your talk. I've been working quite a bit with streams.
Thank you.
And it's fun because it makes your application alive in a totally different way.
Yeah.
So what I noticed is that you're using streams which both have subscribed and next method on the same stream. And very often you forget about that, the fact you can do that.
Yeah, for the subscription, you mean?
Yeah, so you sort of have one stream where you can just put data on it, and then also get the the data two ways.
Yeah, it's the problem of it's something that we face with RxJS in general. Okay, we always forget to subscribe, but still starting from the point that you subscribe successfully in it and you have separate references to the objects, then you will start receiving different messages from each reference. Okay.
I also noticed that you are using the dollar convention, which has been a convention for a couple of years now, and I'm not sure how if it's been totally adopted and it's like everyone knows, or if it's worth mentioning that the dollar at the end of the variable signifies that it's actually a string. So I have one more question for you, and that's with the library that you're using, the WebSockets. The times that I have been using WebSockets, I have been using Socket.io or SingulR, and those have fallback methods because WebSockets, at least it used to be, not that supported, or you would have issues with some clients connecting because of firewalls and such. How would your WebSocket library handle fallbacks and also communication with the backend that's made in Socket.io or SingulR?
Yeah, like Socket.io, you mean, the same feature.
Yeah.
You can solve this with multiplexing in the RxJS WebSocket subject API. Okay, this is something. Fallbacks are like event typing, the same thing, which is not handled by WebSocket, but for others technology, maybe it's a feature supported by default. Okay, but with WebSocket, no, the event typing is not handled. That's why Socket.io, it's from the it falls into the category of libraries that are built on top of the WebSocket with additional features. Okay, and with ArcGIS WebSocket subject, you can deal with this through multiplexing. Okay.
But would you say that from your experience, do you have, if you make an application today with WebSockets only, is that enough for most use cases? Is it supported for?
It really depends on the use case, John. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's not an ideal solution for every use case. Okay, but for some use cases, it's enough. Okay, you just need this. You just need to get the most recent updates, calculations, I don't know, and to just display it. Okay. From other cases, for example, I can tell you a case when when there is no solution with the RxJS library, which is, for example, messages coming from messaging servers. Okay, if you're using RabbitMQ, for example, and this is your use case. Okay, you have RabbitMQ and you have a messaging server. So here you should upgrade the protocol. There is another protocol completely, which is called Stomp. And there are libraries that support the protocol, like Stomp.js, Socket.io also. You have completely to upgrade the protocol, and this is not allowed by the, this is not supported by the actual RxJS WebSocket subject. In this case, for example, it's not the good solution, okay? For other cases, maybe you may not use WebSocket at all to handle real-time updates. Some people use the HTTP 3 technique, which is send server events, okay, which is completely another thing. Through HTTP, but it handles real-time, and people love it because you're still in the HTTP environment. Others say no, because HTTP holds and carry many headers, etc., and I don't really need it, so I prefer WebSocket. You know, there is many. It's a passionate subject. I really love talking about the real-time world. And maybe there is a solution for a specific solution of every use case. Let's say. Yeah.
Thank you. Mike, did you have some questions?
Yes, I actually just continue your discussion. I back to the days used to use WebRTC with Java. It's a dangerous word with Java back then. So, if you have seen this, the WebRTC, maybe in JS or Java, any other language. So, how you distinguish? What would you recommend? Which ones is the
I can't hear you. I can hear you very bad.
Please say again, Mike.
Okay, that's hopefully now it's connection. It's a winter here apparently here in Finland. So of course maybe for the internet. The question is that yes, chipping in with about the WebSocket. So the question is that back then, I used the WebRTC with the old Java. So if you're familiar with this, so how would you compare, and when, in what cases would you use the WebSockets, and what cases would you WebRTC nowadays?
WebRTC is for, as I know, is for video sharing if you want. Okay, WebSockets. I really recommend. I really recommend WebSocket when you really need this double communication. Okay, when you really full duplex communication. If you will only need the server to push data for you, then the server sent events are enough. Okay, you don't have to another different protocol. You're just okay with HTTP. Okay, so that's why I said it's really depend on the situation. But this is one of the features or of the strength of WebSocket. WebSocket also when you need a low communication, because frames communicate with 2 bytes each. Okay. 2 bytes by frame, which is so low cost. Okay, if you need this low cost, then go ahead. Okay, if not, you can. It's not really something that it's critical for the user experience. Okay, for example, for gaming or something, performance is a must. You can do this. Okay, even for system live tracking, for example, the use case of live tracking, you can't. Performance is so important. Okay, so you should be so fast. For AI, also, for example, for decisions. If you want to make decisions, then WebSocket is a good candidate for it. So I said those are briefly. I mean, the full duplex communication, the size of the frames, the event typing also, and the fallbacks, as Jorn pointed out earlier. Yeah, those features should be considered.
I wonder for the cases like, for example, if we get the MQ message queues pushing the data, so would it make sense then to have the communication using the WebSockets or the WebRTC? Because to my understanding, the WebRTC working like as a peer-to-peer, while the WebSockets more like client to server.
Yeah, based on based on messaging servers. That's what you said.
Yep.
Yeah, in this case, you should upgrade the protocol. I mean, you should use another protocol for the web, which is STOMP. Okay, STOMP protocol, and there are many libraries that choose the STOMP.js. The RxJS doesn't choose it. Okay, but Socket.io use it, and there are many other STOMP.js also. Yeah, for messaging is a little bit complicated. Yeah, you should use a different protocol in order to communicate those messages. Yeah.
Okay. I have another question for Ankit. So Ankit, how you ended up writing books?
Yeah, so actually I am always fond of writing. So I write a lot of articles. So I got approached to write a book on Blazor by Pact. Pact Publishing. So almost 2 years back. So at that time Blazor was still in preview version. So I write a book on Blazor first. That was my first book. And incidentally, that was the first book ever on Blazor. So in the world, like I was the first author to publish a book on Blazor. And then I got approached for second book on .NET, on C#. So that's how I thought that it's fun to write books. It's a very long-term commitment. You have to commit for almost 6 to 8 months of time, and you have to plan very long for 6 months. And it's a fun writing a book. It's a very different experience than writing a blog or a article. So I really enjoyed it.
Because it sounds very much that's about the discipline, like you said. That's exactly long term. So you need to keep moving on. And
yeah, so that's what we it's like working on a project in a company. That you have 6 or 8 months to deliver a particular work. So that's how we make a plan, and then we stick to that plan. So the book which C# book took almost 1 year to complete. It's almost 500 pages, I guess. And we have multiple rounds of checks, and then we have code checks, we have reviews by the external reviewers, we have reviews by the editors. So a lot of things going on. So it's exciting. It's a different experience. Also, it's very hectic at the same time. So you have to give a lot of commitment. Every day I have to write for 2 hours or 1 or 2 hours every day. So that is good.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, both of you. I think we'll wrap it up further now. And I wish you both really happy holidays.
Thank you,
and happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
And stay in good health.
Wonderful week to come.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
And a wonderful
Bye-bye.
week to come.
So.
Bye.
So.
And just to summarize up,
I'll pick it up. Your honor. So,
yeah, you pick it up, Mike. Exactly.
So we just would like to thank you very much for coming by and to watch and to listen, to learn from us, from the speakers, and with us, and teach us as well with the questions and comments. And yes, that's exactly some of the links to our Twitter and YouTube and Facebook pages. So obviously,
yeah. Okay, we're losing Mike a little bit there.
So subscribe to the YouTube.
Yes, that was always channels. So follow us on Twitter and follow us to see when there will be a new conference maybe coming up. That's a teaser. And again, really happy New Year to everyone and happy holidays. And hope to see you over the New Year.